10. Harry Harlow. Professor Harry F. Harlow, 1905 to 1981, was a primatologist and psychologist who garnered international infamy for his developmental studies on infant monkeys. Although his research was scientifically sound, it was undertaken with bizarre methodologies that involved incredibly offensive terminology. After separating baby rhesus macaques from their mothers, Harlow raised the babies in captivity with mechanical surrogate mothers that could dispense milk. He proved that tactile stimulation and cuddling were essential for normal development by comparing the behaviors of monkeys raised by cuddly cloth doll mothers against those whose mothers were constructed of cold, hard wire. Harlow frightened his test subjects using a drum-eating teddy bear. The babies raised by cloth dolls retreated to their mothers for comfort and quickly calmed down while cuddling. Conversely, the babies of wire mothers became hysterical, clutching themselves and rolling around on the floor in terror. They exhibited behavior similar to autistic human children or asylum patients. 9. George Price. Dr. George R. Price, 1922 to 1975, was a population geneticist whose work on game theory and altruism has proved extremely influential in behavioral ecology. Price refined an existing mathematical equation that explored altruistic behavior within a population. He even described how it could commonly occur among extremely selfish, unrelated individuals. Disgusted at the implications this had for human nature and ethics, Price dedicated his life to proving that true altruism could exist in the absence of genetic selfishness. He spent increasing amounts of time with the homeless and the destitute. He invited violent and abusive alcoholics into his living spaces and gave them all his material wealth. 8. John Lilly. Dr. John C. Lilly, 1915 to 2001, was probably the most controversial and bizarre figure in the history of marine biology. He ran a research facility in the U.S. Virgin Islands that housed bottlenose dolphins. There, he explored their cognitive and language abilities. In 1960, Lilly predicted that dolphins would be able to master human speech with their blowholes within 20 years. He became convinced that they had the potential to communicate with extraterrestrials because their communication involved a form of telepathy. During the 1960s, Lilly was a regular user of LSD, which he often took for bizarre personal experiments with a sensory deprivation tank. By 1965, Lilly professed to have abandoned the concept of objectivity in his scientific studies. 7. Sergei Brukhonenko. Professor Sergei S. Brukhonenko, 1890 to 1960, was a Soviet-era Russian surgeon who developed an apparatus called the autojector in 1925 to maintain the function of isolated body organs. He deployed it in 1926 to keep a dog with no lungs or heart alive for 2 hours. He used external blood circulation and oxygenation with a pair of donor lungs that were connected to the subject via rubber tubes and pumps. In May 1926, Brukhonenko succeeded at keeping a decapitated dog's head alive for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Later, international demonstrations showed a decapitated dog responding actively to its surroundings and even swallowing a piece of cheese. 6. Richard Herrnstein. Professor Richard Herrnstein, 1930 to 1994, was a specialist in animal behavior. His assertion that intelligence is mostly heritable earned widespread opposition from left-wing academics. In a 1971 article, Herrnstein claimed that trying to achieve equality in society would fail to address the gaps in performance between people of different genetic abilities. He believed that society was locked in biological castes of different levels of intellect. 5. Randy Thornhill. Evolutionary biologist Randy Thornhill made international waves when he co-authored a book with anthropologist Craig Palmer in 2000. It was entitled A Natural History of Rape, Biological Bases of Sexual Coercion. Thornhill began exploring the biology of forced copulations through the study of scorpion flies. He believes that the male mating claws of these animals serve no biological function beyond committing rape. Thornhill asserts that rape is predominantly motivated by sexual desire and is a natural biological phenomenon that has been present throughout human evolution. He claims that it evolved just as surely as the spots on a leopard or the long neck on a giraffe. 4. Paul Stamets. Dr. Paul Stamets is currently the world's foremost mycologist. His revolutionary, unorthodox approach to fungi and his novel ideas for their practical application in just about everything have brought him international acclaim. According to Stamets, mycelial networks shield forest animals from pathogens. But the sterile nature of modern urban life has removed us from this powerful natural buffer against disease. Stamets is open about the fact that his recreational psilocybin use changed his life. It gave him a newfound confidence by helping him to overcome a chronic stutter. Stamets believes that psilocybin stimulates neuron growth in the brain. He literally describes himself as a mycelial messenger. 3. Morris Goodman. Dr. Morris Goodman, 1925 to 2010, was a molecular anthropologist whose groundbreaking work on primates gave scientists a more detailed understanding of the cladistic relationships and divergence intervals between different hominids. He is most famous for advancing the inflammatory, neo-Darwinist idea that humans and chimpanzees are too closely related to belong to separate genera. In 1962, Goodman controversially proposed at a New York Academy of Sciences meeting that chimpanzees and gorillas should be reclassified as humans and scientifically renamed as members of genus Homo. He based this proposal upon his molecular studies of blood proteins. 2. Rob Dunn. Professor Robert Dunn wants a reappraisal of parasites and their roles in human health and Holocene ecology. A core tenet of his hygiene hypothesis is that modern urban living for humans consists of sterile living environments with poor biodiversity. Our resulting lack of exposure to endoparasites, such as gut worms, and diverse bacterial communities is negatively affecting our health, including a boom in allergies. He argues that the human immune system has co-evolved with the parasites that we seek to eradicate. Specifically, he suggests that gut worms play a regulatory role in the human immune system and that our immune systems are too sensitive without them. 1. Charles Cockell. The professional background of Charles S. Cockell, director of the UK Centre for Astrobiology, lies predominantly in microbiology. Cockell loves microorganisms. In fact, he is the world's leading proponent of microbial rights and conservation. Cockell famously asked, "Do microbes have intrinsic value?" He believes that deliberately causing any species to become extinct is an ethical problem. In his view, this logically extends to viruses, bacteria, and maybe even artificially synthesized